I'm heading back to a location that I've been to probably a dozen times in the last month. And the main reason for that is I think that when you study an area, not so much study an area, but when you revisit an area multiple times, especially at different times of day, you get a fresh perspective every time of opportunities in that area, and you see things which you may well not have seen last time. I mean, just the simple act of driving up a road and then, at one time, say late afternoon, and then driving back just after dusk or before the sun goes down, you see entirely different things. You see hills from the opposite side, you see trees backlit instead of frontlit. You see opportunities everywhere. And then if you go and explore side roads as well, or you get off the road and you walk, it's a bit hard up here because it's mostly private farmland, but if you explore in different directions, you soon realize that there are photographic opportunities aplenty in a relatively small area. It's just a matter of looking around, taking your time. And the good thing is, when you visit an area multiple times, you pick up things each time that you go, that might look good at 7 o'clock in the evening, or that would look great when the sun comes up. So it gives you ideas for other images down the track. But the other thing too is, as you explore what a lot of people are calling these days minimalist landscape photography, simple compositions, simple ideas, zooming in on specific elements of a composition. And this is something that I mentioned earlier in one of my videos around the Canon 100-400mm lens. When you do that kind of thing, you realize that you don't need to go to a grand location. You don't need to go to Iceland. You don't need to go to the Dolomites. You don't need to go to the dead heart of Australia to see spectacular photo opportunities. In fact, many of them, some of the most beautiful images, are in what would otherwise be considered relatively mundane locations. The area that I'm going to now is, on first blush, nothing particularly special. It's grassland, farmland, trees here and there. It's not Tuscany. It's not the south of France. It's not Europe. It's not the Lake District in the UK. But it has some special qualities at certain times of the day and at different seasons. For example, now I'm driving through, it's summer here in Melbourne at the moment, although you wouldn't know it, it's currently 19 degrees Celsius, so it doesn't feel anything like summer, but the farmland around here is pretty parched and dry, and the grass is quite high, quite deadly actually. If any of that caught fire, it would blow through pretty fast. But in autumn and winter, the rolling hills up here are beautiful and lush and green, and some of them almost look like they've been manually laid out because they're just beautifully symmetrical the way they are. And I've got a couple of images on my website of a particular trio of humps in a hillside which look beautiful at dusk. Right now, those rolling hills are bone dry and sort of a greyish yellow, so they look entirely different. Also, trees which are deciduous, now have leaves on them, whereas in wintertime, when everything else is green, they're just bare branches, and they can provide stark contrast to lush, rolling green hills. You don't need to travel far to get great landscape images. You just need to slow down and get familiar with an area and look at it from multiple angles, different times of day, different seasons, different focal lengths, and you'll be surprised just how beautiful an image you can create. At the end of the day, it all comes down to picking out elements of your composition, which can mean a different focal length to what you used to. It could mean pulling in with a long lens and getting in tight. Getting familiar with an area at different times of day, different seasons, and all that sort of stuff, and you will get some fabulous images. Anyway, I've been rambling long enough. Hopefully you'll get an idea of what I'm on about by the end of this video. Now you can see off in the distance there a couple of hills, or it's sort of like a trio of hills, but it's two hills. And right now they're nothing special. And this area here, where the crops are nothing particularly special either.
I'm sorry, I don't have any places to show.
Bloody Siri. And this location here with the fields and the crops don't look particularly special at this time of day either. But within about half an hour or so, this will start to look fantastic. And those hills in the distance, probably half an hour after that, will, assuming there's no cloud cover, will light up, and all of this foreground here will go into shadow, and the contrast will be quite beautiful. Anyway, let's get out and have a look. This is my first time using the iFootage Gazelle TC6, and so far so good. I like the fact that there's only 3 legs, so only 2 levers to undo. They're beautifully made, beautiful alloy. But the thing I really love is this bowl head. It's just awesome. You just flick that and then you can move around, you can tilt, you can do lots of adjustment just like that, and then just lock it in. And then combined with this Manfrotto geared head, you can do your fine adjustments like this, which is just awesome. You can get real precision in which way the lens is oriented or orientated. Not sure which. But it is bloody good. I'm very happy with it. This combination, I think, is great. So this Manfrotto geared head doesn't have an Arca Swiss compatible clamp on it. So I've put a Sunway Photo clamp on it, which you can find in the gear section on my website, along with the head itself and the tripod. But I think this combination of a lightweight, strong and fairly tall carbon fibre 3-legged tripod with lever locks, which I always prefer, because when they're closed, you know they're closed. You know, you don't get tripod creep because you're not quite sure if you did the legs up with the twist locks. And the fact that you can level and position the orientation of your camera, well, at least the location, a little bit up and down, a little bit sideways and tilting with this bowl head is fantastic. And then for the final bit of precision, you can use the geared knobs on this head. But if you want to just rely on the head, well, then you can just pull these knobs down and then you've got total freedom here in every direction. So it's both quick and precise, which is an unusual combination, because usually you can have one or the other, but you can't have both. But with this setup, even without the bowl head on this iFootage Gazelle, this head gives you that. It gives you speed and precision, which is fantastic. So anyway, I probably mucked up my composition now, so I'll have another look. It wasn't too far off. Yeah, looks all right. I might actually take a shot now because I'm kind of liking these colours. Now, because actually I should take, oh no, I better leave that lens hood on. I was going to say, because I'm using a fairly long lens with a lens hood, it acts like a sail, and there's a fair bit of breeze. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a fair bit of breeze here. And the trouble is that I think unless you had, you know, a 50-kilo tripod made out of cast iron, it would be impossible to get rid of all of the vibration that you get from wind, especially with a long lens like this, because they act like a sail. And I don't really want to take the lens hood off yet, although I guess I can. The sun's more behind me than to the side of me, so I think I will take that off. But taking the lens hood off does eliminate part of that problem. I'll dump that there, hopefully I don't forget it. But either way, what I tend to do is, if I've got a breeze like this, regardless of whether I'm on a tripod or not, I'll try and get the shutter speed up to close to what I would have if I was hand holding it. I know it kind of defeats the purpose of having a tripod, but a tripod is more than just being able to use slow shutter speeds. It's also precision around composition, being able to position your camera in a spot and adjust it in minute increments, which is what we've been doing here. So I'm going to be shooting this with an ISO, right now it would be an ISO of 200 and 200th of a second at f9. And I guess I'm sitting at around about, what am I sitting at? Yeah, about 200 mil as well in terms of focal length. So, you know, typically that's what I'd, as a minimum, what I'd hand hold at with this lens at that focal length anyway. All right, so I'm going to wait a little while now, see what happens to the light, and then take a few more shots. All right, so we're starting to get some nice shadows now on these hills in the distance. Something I didn't mention before, which is always good practice, is to set a self-timer on your camera. I mean, you can use a cable release if you like, or a remote release, but I mean, most cameras these days have got self-timers built into them, pretty much every camera I would say. So whenever I'm shooting, especially once the shutter speeds start getting down a bit, then I just set a 2-second self-timer. If I'm using a long lens, because just a simple touch like this can send a wobble going for maybe a little longer than 2 seconds, then I set a 10-second self-timer. And that way I know, strong wind notwithstanding, that I will have gotten a shake-free shot. So press the button, Bob's your uncle. The good thing about picking a location and getting really familiar with it too is that it takes away that sense of urgency of having to get the shot, because you know you plan to come back again sometime in the future, so you know you maybe experiment with just one kind of shot each time and see how that goes. Plus it also takes the it takes the pressure off, takes the stress out of it. I mean, you don't get into landscape photography to be stressed out. If you want to be stressed out, become a photojournalist. That'll stress you out. Or work for a car magazine with crazy deadlines. Now, I've just noticed with this head here, maybe it's because I've got this 100 to 400 on here, but there is movement here like this. It's not locked in really solid. I mean, providing you're not playing with the camera, I'm sure it's fine, but it's just something that's interesting to note, that the first little bit of a turn is nothing, and then you turn it again the other way, nothing, and then it engages. So that's interesting. I'm pretty sure my other geared head, the big heavy one, the 410 Junior I think it's called, I don't think that has that issue, which would probably explain why this head is cheaper. But I like the fact that it's got these levers on it, because the hard dials on the other one were just too difficult for my sausage fingers jamming in between other things, whereas this, a nice simple lever, is easy. But I think I can live with that, because once you get it into position, I mean, it's not going anywhere, so I think it's fine. So anyway, I'm going to bump this down now to 100 ISO, f9, and we're looking at about a 40th of a second, which hopefully will be fine with this lens, given that we've got a fair bit of a breeze here. Give it 2 seconds, and I think that'll be all right. I can't tell here. I need to look at it on a big screen because I'm a blind old bastard. But yeah, when you come back to a location again and again, you can explore it and really take your time and just say, okay, this time I'm going to try and get a shot of that hill, 20 shots of that hill as the sun goes down or as the sun comes up, and just see what you get. If you're always in a rush to get a shot, then you tend not to get such great photos. But if you slow down and take your time, then nature reveals itself and opportunities pop up where, had you been in a rush, you would have missed them. So I'm seeing some nice light now come up between a couple of hills. I'm going to get in closer with, I think I'll get in about 300-400 mil, and that makes a nice simple composition. The only trouble is there is a freeway off to the distance. I don't know if you can see in the shot, probably can't, but there are some trucks going off ahead of those two bald hills over there, because that's actually the Hume Freeway, which is the main arterial between Melbourne and Sydney. But oh, now we're getting some nice glow on those hills. Yeah, that's starting to look nice now. Yeah, and as you take your time in the one location, you get to see multiple shots. And sometimes, you know, the best shot, like right now, the way the sun is just kissing two of these hills, you know, you might get an opportunity for a shot that literally lasts 15-20 seconds. And if you're in a rush, you get there and you take your photo and you piss off again, you miss it. You know, you have to be extremely lucky to get the best light if you're in that kind of a rush. But now the sun is just dipping below the trees over there, and all of this foreground is coming into shadow, and that moves very quickly. Once the sun dips below the tree line, it's only a matter of a minute or two before everything's in shadow. So you want to be there for it, and the only way you can be there for it is to slow down and take your time and just enjoy the process. I think this is actually a vertical shot. Oh, I can't with this lens because I've only got the one mount here. Oh no, hang on a minute. What am I thinking? Of course. Yes. Use your head, Fritzy. Another vehicle coming. Oh yeah, I like the look of this. Yep. Oh, now we get a very different shade of light. Oh, the sun's just popped out behind a cloud. It went blue there for a second, then it went orange again. And that's what I mean by taking your time. If you're in a rush, you miss all those. I don't know if you can hear the crickets, but it's very peaceful here. And aside from the odd vehicle going past on the dirt road over here, I have this whole place to myself. It's lovely. Okay, I think that's it. Alright, so that's that. Sun's gone down. I don't think there's going to be much glow because there's very little cloud cover. So that's it. We head back home. Get my son a hot dog. He phoned up the request earlier. and relax with the family. Watch a movie. Probably look at these photos sometime tomorrow. Yeah. So thanks for joining me for this video, and I'll see you next time.